I'm Fox Fisher. I am a non-binary trans person, and I'm here to answer a whole bunch of questions on being trans, being non-binary, and so on. How do I come out as trans to my family? Okay, so I don't know your family, so I don't want to give you very specific information, but have a think about the best case scenario and the worst case scenario. If you are still financially dependent on your family, or make sure that you have a backup plan of some sort. And when I first came out to my family, to my parents, luckily I wasn't financially dependent on them, but it did take my mum over a year to understand that I was trans and what that meant. In order to educate her better, I did go and see her and showed her a whole bunch of films about being trans. So I would recommend showing your parents just to give them a reference point of what it is like to be trans, and that by being trans, you're not committing to a life of unhappiness. You're actually helping yourself to be happier and therefore a better functioning human being in society. So what I did as well is write a letter. I never actually ended up using the letter, but for me it was really helpful to be able to write out how I felt, what it meant to me, maybe some resources, links to resources that your parents can check out, because when you transition, you might have been thinking about it for a while, but if you haven't been in conversation with your parents, they might not know anything about this. You know, it just takes a little bit of readjustment for a parent. I think that if your parents are in any way connected or in tune with you, they'll probably know that something's up, and they just ultimately want you to be happy. So coming out to your parents can actually give you a much better relationship with your parents and your family. That's exactly what happened for me as well. Unfortunately, I was seen as the troublemaker in the family, so now my parents understand me better and we have a much better relationship. So maybe have a friend with you and have some resources available so that you can explain and help to educate your family too, because unfortunately when we come out as trans, we have to educate pretty much everyone around us as well. So good luck with that. I want to have sex as a trans person pre-op, but I'm worried about dysphoria. Any advice? Dysphoria is a feeling of, it's like an icky, horrible feeling that you have that's very personal, and dysphoria tends to move around. So before I had my top surgery, I felt dysphoric about my chest. Luckily, the surgery helped me to feel better about things. I also had dysphoria about my voice, and luckily the testosterone helped my voice to lower, and that alleviated that feeling of separation or a feeling weird about something, a feeling that something should be a different way. It's really important to communicate with your partner, to explain to them what's going on. Communication is really key, and you can incorporate that into your bedroom talk anyway. Negotiate, discuss what you want your parts to be called. I think that your partner will help you to get through this element of dysphoria. The mind is an incredible thing. I think, you can use your imagination to really imagine something else going on. You can feel better about your body because of that. Imagine that you've got certain equipment that perhaps you don't. So make sure that you talk to your partner about things, and that'll help to preempt any sort of dysphoria that might crop up. Is it okay to go stealth when entering into a new relationship? Stealth is when you are not out to the people around you as being trans. You're totally entitled to just be the boy or the woman or the non-binary person that you are. Well, I suppose you can't be stealth if you're non-binary, so I suppose we're more talking about men and women. If you want to be stealth, that's absolutely fine. Even stealth people are out to their doctor, or they might be out to their family or close friends. I'm really out. I can still walk down the street or go to the shop and people will assume I'm a man, which obviously for me as a non-binary person, that has its also difficulties, but I'm really happy to be seen as masculine. When you're entering into a relationship, I think that that's absolutely fine. You might have to have a conversation with someone a bit further down the line, potentially if you're pre-op in any way or your body doesn't match conventional ideas of what a man's body or a woman's body is supposed to have. I don't know if I can phrase that any better. If your body doesn't reflect society's standards of what a man is supposed to have or what a woman is supposed to have, then you might want to have a conversation later down the line about your body with the person when you feel comfortable. But you don't have to tell someone at the beginning of your relationship. It's totally up to you. But just make sure that you feel safe. How can I lessen my dysphoria? Dysphoria is a slippery snake. I used to have dysphoria in my chest. I had my top surgery, then it's kind of moved downwards. Dysphoria can be lessened depending on where the dysphoria is. If you feel dysphoric about your voice, there are certain things that you can do in order to either lower your voice or make your voice higher as well with exercises. So you can have some control over that. If you feel uncomfortable about curves, for example, which I really did, there's certain outfits or certain clothes that you can wear that doesn't hug your body in the same way. Cis guys also have hips. If you're dysphoric about your chest, you can bind your chest. If you feel dysphoric about not having anything in your pants, you can wear a sock or you can wear a specific packer. For me, it was hormones and surgery that really, really helped. Although there's so many things that you can do before that to feel good about yourself. Try and find ways, small ways, every day to feel better about yourself and the skin that you're in. I'm trans, but I'm not attracted to other trans people. Is that okay? Yeah, of course. I mean, you're attracted to whoever you're attracted to. My partner is trans, and before we got together, I did have a few flings or whatever with other trans people, but I was mostly with cis people. It just depends on who you like. As you go on with your transition, you might discover that you're a bit more open-minded and you're a bit more understanding of people's situations. The thing that I love about being with a trans partner is that we really get each other on this core level. Like, even though my partner was assigned male at birth and is non-binary trans feminine, and I was assigned female at birth and I'm non-binary trans masculine, we kind of met in the middle. There's a real gift that comes with being with a trans person. How do I come out to my friends as trans? You might want to preempt it with a letter. It's all about control for you. So if you want to pre-record a video or write them a letter and just kind of leave that with them, then that's really cool. You might want to sit them down and just have a conversation with them. I think the biggest fear when coming out as trans is that you're going to lose everyone around you. And to be honest, when you do come out as trans and you start to transition, it's like everyone around you transitions too. Like, your whole world does change. If your friends are not supportive of you being trans, they're really not worth having as a friend. You may be surprised at who supports you and who doesn't support you when you transition. People who I thought would be okay with it were not okay, but that was a really small minority. So just live your life and do it for you, because life's too short. My friends keep misgendering me and I'm too scared to confront them. What can I do? I think that often trans people, especially at the start of our transition, we don't feel like we've earned the right to be called by certain pronouns or to be called by the name that we've chosen. That's absolute rubbish. You are so deserving of being called, the right pronouns, the right name, of being respected. And your friends should be the first and foremost, the first people to be doing that. So it's going to take courage, and it doesn't need to be a huge thing. They say she and you're he, just go he. Smile, it's fine. They might apologize, they might not apologize, but they'll understand that you want them to use a different pronoun or use the right name. Additionally, you could also get a t-shirt that says he, him, if you go by he, him, his pronouns, and you just point at the t-shirt, be like, excuse me, hello. You could implement something like pay some money every time that they use the wrong pronouns or name. It sucks when friends don't support you, and again, if they're not willing to use the right pronouns or the right name, I would suggest that you look for new friends, because there's a whole bunch of beautiful people out there and who are going to respect you. Does being attracted to someone who is trans change your sexual orientation? No, not at all. Being trans is an identity, and so you work out your gender first. So you work out that you're male, female, non-binary, and from that you work out who you're attracted to. So for example, I'm non-binary. I'm attracted to non-binary people, masculine people, feminine people, whatever. So I'm pansexual. So you work out your gender first and your sexuality after that. And so if you're trans or if you're not trans and you're attracted to trans people, that really doesn't change your sexuality at all. I think we're attracted to either masculine people, feminine people, or a combination of the both, or for non-binary people, really, it's very much a spectrum. It's just people, basically. I'm F to M trans, and I'm having really bad dysphoria with periods. Any suggestions? I think we can take a lot of solace in the fact that people are really owning it, and people are saying, hey, I'm a trans man, and I still bleed, okay? Get over it. It's easier said than done if you're feeling bad about yourself, and of course, you've got your cramps and you've got everything that goes with it. It just doesn't feel right that you're bleeding. I really, really feel for you. You've got to find a way to feel better about the situation. So again, you just got to be kind to yourself. Treating yourself to something that you really want that month. Try and find a way to feel good about yourself. But don't forget, you're not alone. We're in this together. Yeah, it really sucks to have bad dysphoria during your period. Just be really extra kind to yourself and take solace in the fact that there are a lot of trans men that also bleed, and we get through it. It means you're a strong person. And also try and remember that perhaps if you're going on hormones in the near future, one of the toughest time in your life is at the start of your transition, pre-everything. Your life is going to get so much better soon. So stick with it. And you're going to get through this, and you're going to be supporting other people as well who are in a similar situation. I want to order a binder as I'm going through puberty, and I don't know where to start. First of all, I'm sorry that you're going through the wrong puberty. That's a really tricky time when your body feels like it's betraying you every single day. Luckily, binders are really great, and they've come a long way. So if you've got a small chest, there is specific medical tape that you can use to just cover your nipples. That might be enough. Now, binding is a tricky thing because it's like you're damned if you do and damned if you don't, because binding really restricts the chest, and if you do it for too long, there's major issues. You end up with broken ribs, bruising, you can feel restricted with your lungs, you can sweat a lot, and then if you don't wear a binder, you can often feel bad about yourself, so you can often feel quite dysphoric. There's a whole bunch of really great makers out there. I would suggest Spectrum, Tea Kingdom. What did I use? I can't remember. Yeah, there are a lot of schemes as well that have free binders, and you just have to pay for postage sometimes, or they'll just ship it to you. I wore a binder for a really long time, and I'm so grateful now I've had my top surgery that I don't have to wear a binder. Try and remember to take breaks. Don't wear it at night. Try and take it off when you can. I used to have the kind of binder where you could pull a bit of Velcro at the side, and sometimes when I felt too restricted, I would just pull that Velcro, and that was a good way to be able to breathe a bit better. How do I know if I'm trans or non-binary? I think when you're trans, including non-binary, it's about working out what you're not. So for me, growing up, my parents, God bless them, they would dress my sister and I in the same clothing, so I would have to wear skirts and dresses that looked exactly like my sister's. My sister wasn't too fussed about it, she didn't really care about it, but for me it was torture and I hated it. Working out that you're trans is just really a personal journey, and for me it just took me such a long time to work out that I was trans because I was in such denial and I had so much internalized transphobia. It felt like a tough thing because of society and because of the way that other people viewed trans people. But being trans doesn't go away. So for me, I would feast off of YouTube videos and watch all these incredible people on their journey, taking hormones and so on, and I'd bawl my eyes out and be like, oh my god, they're so brave, they're so amazing. And then I'd have these panic attacks in real life. I knew that I had to deal with it because it was just a cycle of watching videos, having panic attacks, and since starting my journey, I've not had one panic attack and I felt so much better in my skin. So that's the proof. It's okay to be wrong, it's okay to not be trans, but if you think you might be trans, including non-binary, just start heading down that path. Maybe ask people to try out using certain pronouns. Ask people around you, close to you, to start using a different name. Maybe just experiment dressing in a different way. And if you feel that makes you feel better, if that alleviates your dysphoria, then maybe you're trans, I want to say as well that you don't have to experience dysphoria in order to be trans. Dysphoria is a very personal thing. They might not have a name for how they feel, and I wouldn't wish dysphoria on anyone. So if you feel okay in your body, that's really awesome, because that really is the aim of the game. And then it's just the case of progressing however you see fit, whether that is a medical route with hormones and surgeries, or a social route, first and foremost, with names, pronouns, clothing, and so on. How do I tell someone I'm romantically interested in that I'm trans? They think I'm a cis man when I'm actually F to M. So again, I think we talked about this a bit earlier about being stealth. It's a tricky conversation to have, I totally understand, because ultimately we're afraid about losing that person. If you come out to this person as trans and they don't want to stick around, honestly, they're not worth knowing. There are so many billions of people on this planet. There's going to be so many more people out there for you. So if the person you're with has a really negative reaction about you being trans, then they've got big issues. They might come around in the end as well. You've got to give people time. But ultimately, if they make you feel bad about yourself, see you later, say goodbye. It takes a lot of bravery, but honestly, it's a message to yourself that you respect yourself. Scared to go out in public as my true self as a trans woman. At the start of our transition, it's really scary stepping out. We feel like people are going to attack us, that people are going to verbally abuse us or hurt us or laugh at us. But don't forget you're doing this for yourself. It probably won't be as bad as you think it's going to be. There's places where you can dress as yourself for the first time. Like there's groups that you can go to. Obviously not during lockdown. There are safer spaces that you can dress as yourself. I would suggest going to places where you feel comfortable, perhaps an LGBT bar or maybe an LGBT plus support center is a good place to go to when you first want to dress as yourself. You can take your clothing in a bag with you. Another great way is maybe to have a few people round and you can do each other's makeup and you can dress up and you can get advice from people, and then you can maybe step out together. So you don't have to do this on your own. You can find someone else that you can dress as yourself and maybe feel protected with that. Tips on going through puberty as a trans teenager who isn't on blockers. The wrong puberty. It's one of the hardest times. I wouldn't take a leaf from my book because what I did was go down this really destructive route, very toxic route. It was almost like I just didn't have any respect for myself and every cell in my body. And, when you have that attitude, the world does reflect that. So it's important for you to feel good about yourself. So if you're going through the wrong puberty, it's really, really hard. But there is support that you can get out there as well, and I would suggest chatting to other people about it. Find some friends that are going through a similar thing. Find a support group where there are people going through similar things as you. There are ways as well to really work with your body. So for example, I know a lot of people pre-testosterone who have been able to really work out and kind of get this more V-line shape and body shape that they feel better about themselves with. And if you're doing the work now, I guarantee when you do get on the hormones, your body's going to really, really respond well to that. Going through the wrong puberty without any blockers is tough, but you can do it. I've got faith in you, but just try and take each day at a time and just be really, really kind to yourself. I have my first appointment at a gender clinic soon and I'm terrified. Advice. Okay, well, congratulations for getting your first appointment at the gender clinic. It's so hard to even get to that point. It's definitely a scary situation, but don't forget, you know who you are. And you don't have to convince anyone of anything. I would just make sure that you get a good night's sleep the night before, as best you can. I would get to the location where your appointment is well in advance, so you're not rushing to the appointment, you're going to be all sweaty and so on. And I would make sure that you take someone with you. So take a loved one, maybe a parent if you're out to them, maybe a friend, a best friend, a partner, and that person will help you to feel so much better. But in your first appointment, they're going to want to get to know you, they're going to assess, they're going to ask you a whole bunch of questions about you, your life, very intrusive questions. Don't worry about it at all because they're just asking you about you. So take your time with things. They're there to help you. Don't forget that. You don't have to convince anyone of anything. You're there to say, hey, I'm trans, I would like some support. And afterwards, I would say go and do something really fun. Go for a walk or go get some ice cream or, go to your favorite restaurant and have some food and just try and forget about it. But, that's... the first appointment can be really scary, but you're in the system and things are going to get so much better, you're in the system and things are going to get so much better soon. So yeah, good luck. Number 16, is it okay that I'm trans F to M and don't mind people seeing my chest? Yes. Absolutely. The most important thing is for you to feel good about yourself. If you don't mind people seeing your chest as it is, pre-op, whatever, I think that's a wonderful thing and you shouldn't feel bad about that. Everyone's dysphoria is different. If you feel good, if you feel okay, then go for it. Get your chest out, whatever you want. Yeah, you do you. Celebrate who you are. And, trans men don't need to have surgery in order to be seen as men. Maybe you don't want surgery. Surgeries are very intrusive and we have to compromise with that, maybe compromise on sensation and so on. Feel good about yourself, then great. That's a really wonderful thing. Don't feel bad about that at all. Non-binary. Here are the non-binary questions. As a non-binary person, I'm very excited about this. Let's bring it on. What does it mean to be non-binary? I think I am, but I'm not sure. You work out who you are by what you're not. So if you think you might be non-binary, perhaps you could ask people to use different pronouns than the ones that you were assigned at birth. Try it out. Maybe they them works. Maybe you want a different name or a name that's a bit more gender neutral. And of course, gender can be fluid as well. Perhaps one day you feel more masculine, one day more feminine. That's totally fine. Just you do you. Sometimes people say that identifying as non-binary is almost a stepping stone towards coming out as a trans man or a trans woman. That's cool too. That's totally fine. For me, that wasn't entirely the case. I think I always felt like I was gender blah, whatever, you know, I was kind of androgynous, walking the line of gender, but I was always seen as female, and that's what really bothered me. So that's why I wanted to have hormones and surgery to help to change that. It's a very, very personal thing. So yeah, explore being non-binary and whatever that means to you. There's a lot of non-binary people out there that you can look at. There's a lot of non-binary people that you can look at and see how they express themselves and how they are, and maybe that will help you to recognize yourself. How can I explain my pronouns to people who don't get it? This is a tricky one. So if you use the pronouns they, them, for example, and people are like, oh, I don't know anything about this. Well, you know what? Non-binary people are not going to go away. Of course, we have to educate people around us, but, you know, if people around you really don't get it, I would say just try and not spend that much time with them and find some new friends or other people that you can spend time with. If you have to work with these people and they really don't understand, let's hope that they're willing to learn. So perhaps you could share with them some links to stuff. Myself and my partner made a documentary called I Am They. I'll leave a link to that as well. And just by exposing people to more understanding of non-binary issues will help them to respect you and use the right pronouns, because at the end of the day, it is about respect. They don't have to understand it fully, but they do have to respect you. Is it okay to trial pronouns until I find one that feels right? My cis pronouns make me feel uncomfortable. Yes, absolutely. Like, you know, nothing is fixed. We only know who we are by working out what we are not. So for me, she, her, hers pronouns just made me feel weird. Like I just didn't connect with that. So I knew that I wasn't that. Using he, him, his, yeah, better, definitely works more. For me, they, them is what works for me. And for me, it feels more authentic. And that's what it's all about. It's about being our authentic selves. My friends keep misgendering me and I'm too scared to confront them. What can I do? Maybe you could have a patch or a t-shirt or something that says they, them, theirs. If they mispronoun you, you can go, excuse me. You know, you just have to point. That's all you have to do. And hopefully they'll get the message. And again, if they really make you feel bad about yourself, you're not joined at the hip for life. You can find other friends and new people that you want to spend your time with. And, you know, these people will either get educated, learn to respect you, or they'll fizzle out. You know, they won't be a huge part of your life anymore, and that is okay too. Does questioning my gender identity make me LGBTQ+? Yeah, if you are questioning your identity, then that is part of the LGBTQIA Q. If you are questioning your gender identity, then I would say that you are part of the questioning Q aspect of LGBTQ, that's queer, LGBTQIAQ. It's okay to dip your toes in and see if you feel that you are part of this community. Again, it's by how you feel. So if you feel like you're connecting with like-minded people within the community, then yeah, maybe you are part of the LGBTQIA community. It's okay to be an ally as well. It's okay to try these things out and go, actually, that doesn't work for me. I'm just an ally. I'm just a supporter. Totally fine. But if you are questioning your identity, you probably are part of our community, and in which case, hello, welcome. And it's okay to define as different aspects of those LGBTQIA acronyms, because that's what I've done. You know, at some point I've identified as B or L, you know, and so on. And now I'm just happy to be trans, non-binary, and pan. Does being non-binary change my sexuality? It just depends who you're attracted to. So if you're non-binary and you're attracted to just masculine people, then that's your sexuality, that's who you are. And if you're non-binary and you're also attracted to people who are non-binary and so on, then you might be pansexual like I am. Again, totally cool to identify and change your identity over time. Again, it's totally cool to change your sexuality over time. You might find that your sexuality opens up, that you are attracted to more types of people or different types of people as you become more comfortable with yourself. How to deal with people being horrible about my gender identity online. How do I deal with people being horrible about my gender identity online? In brackets, Apache helicopter jokes, for example. The horrible place of social media and online antics and people hiding behind profiles in order to be mean. It really does my head in. It's so not okay. It's a tricky thing because it's like there's very little policing that happens. If you're being attacked by someone online, if they're abusing you and your identity is a protected characteristic. So what they're doing is wrong, and what they're doing is bullying. So you have every right to block and report them as well. I always block. I just don't have time to have conversations with these people. You're not going to change their mind. You're going to feel exhausted. You're going to feel upset. They're going to troll you. I would just not even engage. I would just block, report, move on. There's people who are the movable middle who are like, oh, I don't really understand this, but I really want to know more. And they have that light bulb moment, and that's cool. But then there's this group of people who are just, you're never ever going to change their mind. And it's really important to recognize that, because unfortunately people have very fixed views about things and they're on their own journeys, and that's fine. They'll get there in the end, maybe not even this lifetime, but whatever. If you are feeling really attacked online, take some time out for yourself. You don't have to be online. You don't have to be fighting these fights. You got to make sure that you feel okay. And burnout is so real in our community. If you're feeling stressed out, if you're feeling really overly upset, take a step back, take a breather. You can make a post and just say, hey guys, I'm going to be off this for a few days, and then see how you feel. If you feel better in yourself by not looking at what these people are saying, maybe it's a good sign for you to just take your focus elsewhere. Often people go online and create these sock puppet accounts so they can abuse people. Honestly, I don't know why they do that. Yeah, at the end of the day, just look after yourself, and that's the most important thing. So avoid being online if it's too much, and don't feel like you have to respond to everything people say. Just block and move on. Is there a spectrum to being non-binary? I feel like some days I'm more comfortable with he, him, she, her than they, them. I would say that gender can be very fluid. I think for some people it feels very fixed. And I know other people that really do experience quite a fluid gender identity. So one day they might want to express themselves in a more feminine way, other times more masculine. I mean, gender is just a construct. It's just a costume, It's something that we use in order to reflect who we are. It's about feeling comfortable in your own skin. So yeah, it's absolutely, totally normal and cool to wake up and decide that you want to have she, her pronouns or he, him pronouns versus they, them, and just let people know, just tell them what you want to be called by, and that's absolutely fine. People should be open and understanding of that. Play with gender and see how you feel. So is there a spectrum to being non-binary? I think there's a spectrum to gender. I think gender is a spectrum, and that, you can be wherever you want along that line, or not even on that line. You can be, part of a constellation of gender. I think we're realizing more and more that gender is this incredible construct that we can play with and we can enjoy. Colors and clothing, we connect with being masculine or feminine, when, for example, in Victorian times, pink was a boy's color and blue was a girl's color. So things change, and I think that things are constantly evolving and moving, and so yeah, just recognize that you can play with gender, you can play with your pronouns. It's all changeable, and it's all okay. I sincerely hope that these answers have been helpful for you. I've really enjoyed chatting to you today about all of this, and I just wanted to share some books. Yes, You're Trans Enough. Gender, a Graphic Guide by Meg, John Barker and Jules Scheel. My Dad Thinks I'm a Boy. It's for a younger audience, by Sophie Labelle. There's a book called Trans Power by Gina Roche, which is really great. Again, Gina Roche, Gender Explorers. This is young people talking about their own experiences, which is very helpful. If you want to give this to a family member, that might be good. Trans Britain, it's so important to know where we've come from. We're standing on the shoulders of giants. You might see an essay from me in here as well, talking about what's going on in the media currently. Juno Dawson's The Gender Games. Juno Dawson is generally a fiction writer, but this is a non-fiction about Juno's journey, which I think is really great. I've got the Trans Teen Survival Guide, which is a book that I made with my partner. It's for anyone who wants to support a trans person. It's got a whole bunch of information in there and a bunch of drawings and what have you. If you speak Spanish, it's in Spanish as well, which is really cool. This is my kids' book, Are You a Boy or Are You a Girl?, which I made with Sarah Savage, and it's a very gentle, non-conforming book despite the title. Are you a girl or are you a boy is probably a question that nearly every trans person has been asked at some point in their life. I don't know why, it's like just, I think people just pick up that you might be different. So yeah, in this book, you never discover what gender the main character, Tiny, is. And that's kind of the point. It kind of doesn't matter what gender they are. So yeah, there's a whole bunch of other books out there as well. My publisher, Jessica Kingsley, has a whole range of books on trans, including non-binary issues. So I would definitely say check them out. I would also say please use our films with My Generation as a tool, as a resource to help people understand you better. Get in touch if you want to share your story with me. I would love to hear more about what's going on with you. All right, thank you so much. I'm off to take this one for a walk. Walkies. Yeah, I know. And yeah, I hope you have a really nice Pride season. Come on, let's go.